My name is Tamara Chambers, and I am about to watch Return to Oz for the first time ever. It's gonna be so much fun.
Tamara's never seen.
It's like this horrifying combination of like Twilight Zone and the Waltons. First of all, they show Dorothy, who is apparently aging in reverse because she looks like she's 7 years old. She's incredible hair though. So Dorothy finds a key on her farm in Kansas that says Oz, and she looks at it for 100 years. Then she takes the key and runs to Aunt Em because of course Aunt Em already thinks she's crazy. So Aunt Em takes her to a doctor who is going to use electrical currents to cure her of her belief in Oz, which is actually pretty progressive for the time. So way to go, Aunt Em. There's a doctor and a nurse, Mrs. Wilson, who's super horrifying and like real fierce. And then it just magically turns into a horror film right in front of your eyes. Return to Oz, the story about Dorothy Gale in Kansas, turns into a horror film. So Dorothy's in this psych ward, basically, strapped down to this chair, about to get electrocuted for believing in Oz. And there's this terrifying nurse in this amazing black dress, and this doctor, and they're about to electrocute her. And then a lightning storm happens, and the whole place goes black. So the nurse and the doctor leave Dorothy to go take care of some other patients who are moaning scarily and creepily. It's not good. So then they escape through this dark forest while Mrs. Wilson is chasing them in her amazing dress. It's amazing, it's a really good dress. And they fall into a river. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's like a floating piece of wood, like in the Titanic, just chilling there, and then it turns into like a crib that's floating, which it turns into, it's like chicken coop, I guess, but it looks like a crib. And it's floating in the middle of a river. And then that river turns into like the fucking ocean. So they're just out in the middle of nowhere in an ocean in a crib that's floating. Then Dorothy wakes up and there's a talking chicken in the crib, which it's a chicken coop. Of course. Of course it is. The ocean has dried up and it's just a pond. And they're in Oz. Bum, bum, bum. The chicken is named Billina, which is her chicken from the farm in Kansas. But honestly, she's super funny. She's the best part of the movie, I really think. 10 out of 10 would recommend watching Billina again. She's way better than all of the other famous chickens. So they go across the little chunk of the evil desert, and you find out that the bad guys are rocks. It's actually pretty scary. Then they get to Emerald City, or what is left of Emerald City, and these things show up. The Wheelers. What the fuck? What the fuck? They're like loud, flamboyant Slendermans on roller skates, and it's amazing. It's so scary. Because first of all, they've got these helmets with like the faces on them, and then you're like, what the fuck is that? Is that claymation? And then they put their faces up, and they're humans, but they're on roller skates, and they look like Slender Men, but very, very flamboyant and giggly. So after a while, the Wheelers reveal that the Gnome King is the evil big bad guy, and that he doesn't allow chickens. Chickens aren't allowed in Oz. What? So then, Dorothy, Billina, the best chicken in the world, and their new friend TikTok go to Princess Mombi's house to retrieve the Scarecrow, who is now the leader of the Emerald City that's now destroyed. And honestly, the best part of that scene is when Billina sees the house for the first time and goes, wow, this Princess Mombi is some house cleaner. It's like, girl, you live in a chicken coop with poop. But way to stay humble though. Then Princess Mombi locks Dorothy up in the tower in the hopes that in a couple years her head will ripen for her head collection so that she can chop Dorothy's head off and use it for herself because she's a headless, horrifying creature. But this is for kids. So in the tower, Dorothy meets Jack, which is like a pumpkin. It's like Jack Skellington, but it's like more cartoony than the actual cartoon of Jack Skellington. He's quite She meets Jack, and Jack keeps calling her mom, which is weird. He should stop. Dorothy, Jack, and the most wonderful chicken in the world make the plan to escape by creating this character made out of a gump, which is like a deer. And they put his head on top of a sofa with some plants to flap away. It doesn't hold up with science. It's not scientific at all. I will not give them that. But they need this powder from the princess, and so she goes and steals the powder, and then all of her heads catch her, and so all of her heads are screaming, and then the headless Princess Mombi is chasing them, and it's so fucking scary. It's like horrific. Like, it's like horror film scary, and this is for kids, which is awesome. I love it. I can't imagine watching this as a child. I can't imagine. My mom didn't let me watch Rugrats growing up. Like, this would have scared the shit out of me. But anyways, they get the powder and they're sprinkling it on this Gump character, and he flies away as the headless Mombi is chasing them. So they're escaping through the air on this nightmare machine of this like Gump head and a sofa and some plants. And meanwhile, he's like, "What am I?" as he's flapping through the air, and they're like, "You're a thing. You're a thing." Literally what she says. She's like, "Well, you're a thing." Also, Jack keeps calling Dorothy his mother, and I know that Jack is a newborn pumpkin man, but it seems like he's a full-grown pumpkin man because he's man-shaped, and it's creepy. So as they're flying through the air, the Wheelers come looking for them again, and on second inspection, I love the Wheelers. They are super cool, and I want to try on their skates. Then Dorothy and all of them crash, and the Gump disassembles and is everywhere, and they're on Gnome Mountain. So this is the first time you see the Gnome King, and he sounds like Mufasa and Kylo Ren put together, and he looks like an evil clump of Play-Doh. And it's awesome. So the Gnome King transfers them down to his underground secret rock lair, where he reveals that he has the ruby slippers in the best way. It's like this incredible reveal of like, they're very powerful. So the Gnome King makes them play this game where they have to guess which knickknacks are their friends, which is pretty messed up. And a fucking course on the last try, Dorothy gets it. Then you see the Scarecrow, and he is horrifying looking. Like, time has not been good to him. Like, I know it's only been 6 months, but like, maybe he has a drinking problem. It's that bad. Then, as they're trying to escape, all of the evil Play-Doh rocks attack them, and right as the evil Gnome King is about to eat Jack, the pretend Jack Skellington character, one of Belinda's eggs pops into his mouth and destroys everything. Done. They like melt like the witch, like the evil witch, like in Wizard. I just got that. That's all it took. One egg. Girl works good under pressure. So Dorothy gets the slippers back and everything's restored, and she sees the Scarecrow and the Lion and the Tin Man, and they all look bad and weird, and I love it. So Dorothy leaves Oz with the promise from the Queen of Oz that she can return anytime she likes. And she leaves her chicken friend, which is a bitch move, honestly. Then she's like magically back on the riverside in Kansas, where she like fell overboard at the hospital, and Toto finds her like a champion. And that's right when I realized that Toto had not been in the movie at all. Like, he didn't go back to Oz. He's like, bark, bark, fuck that shit, bark. Bye, have fun. I don't like lions, so peace. Then you see that Mrs. Wilson was always Princess Mombi, Moby Dick. And she's arrested and ends up in a cage, just like Princess Mombi did. Ooh. And it's just all so fucked up. Like, it's so weird and cool and horrifying and creepy. And like, you can tell a lot of money was put into it, but it also looks real janky in the best way. Like, it stuck to the weird themes of the old movie, but did justice to the books more so because of the ultra weirdness that it brought into it. And it was so uncomfortable to watch. Like, why was this made? And how did they cast this girl? It was a weird choice. I feel like the girl was a weird choice. The weird puppet characters were awesome. I love that they kept, like, you had some kind of idea what was happening because of Wizard of Oz, But if you've never read the books, you're like, what the fuck is going on? They're like, oh yeah, it's Troll Mountain. Or No Mountain. I don't know, it's one of those. It's No Mountain. And like now, like all I want is a horror series. Horror, not horror. And like now, like all I want is a horror series based on Return to Oz. Like just continues the story, and it's like a weekly like American Horror Story, but like just weird puppets and little girls who should be older than they are, but it's like they're Benjamin Button, you know. Come on, HBO. I just cannot imagine watching this as a child. Are you kidding me? Wheelers? No. No, what the fuck? How did you watch this as a kid? How did you do that? Oh my god, is that why the Walker Brothers are so weird?